This is my week 2 project, RISE self-evaluation for the MCBS analysis and strategy presentation we had to do in week 2. As far as reflect, how did my attitude, logic, and behaviors influence my performance or contribution? What worked and what didn't? I created a strategy and devised an analysis of the MCBS program that Full Sail will be potentially launching in the fall. And initially I was intimidated. I looked at a few examples of how these types of strategies were done by others, not only in my class but as it pertains to companies and certain marketing firms that take on this task of presenting an analysis to that company, to their client, and coming up with a strategy in order to get that message or launch that program or idea or whatever it may be that a company is trying to do, how they go about presenting it to the public. I worked on a PowerPoint presentation, and I've had a little trouble with adding audio to PowerPoint, and well, not necessarily adding audio to the PowerPoint. That actually was fairly easy. It was changing that PowerPoint presentation to an actual .move file, which is something I've never done before, and actually had it was a nice challenge, to say the least. I really enjoyed it, but trying to do that, I pushed myself to a limit of going overboard on my time and not being able to effectively get it done on time. So I actually struggled with it down the stretch, and I noticed that I'm going to have to start doing things a day before they're due, instead of assuming that everything is going to go right with the internet gods and everything else to get that assignment done. So I definitely want to strive to do that in a better, effective fashion than I did on this assignment. As far as inquire, what concepts, techniques did I still need to learn about to gain mastery of this material? How did I know that? And what resources were available to me? I still need to do a better job of creating video and working within the iMovie format. I really enjoyed using iMovie. I just am so used to using PowerPoint presentations, and everything is not going to be able to be a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm honing my skills on doing video editing and watching some tutorials. So I think YouTube tutorials are great. I've used YouTube tutorials to fix my truck, so quite naturally I have begun to use YouTube for just about anything, and they're a great source of learning how to use certain Apple applications, and particularly iMovie. So that's something I'm definitely interested in and am starting to get a lot better at using. Far as to suggest, what could I have done differently to improve my performance? I think what I could have done to improve my performance on this particular project would be to set myself a time before the assignments actually due. I actually do work on the assignment little by little, all the way up to the date that it's due, and I use the date that it's due to compile all of that work. And Professor Jason, he actually gave me a good tip on this. He said, actually start out as if you're due for that project the day before. That way I won't have to worry about running into any type of technical problems. If I do, I still have time to correct those or find out simply how to do them. And I found that advice quite helpful. I'm definitely going to start doing that in the future. If I had more time, I would have created this piece totally using iMovie instead of using PowerPoint and trying to bounce it to iMovie, because I still had a difficult time doing that and making that PowerPoint presentation an actual move file. So that's something I'm starting to work on and perfect a little bit more. As far as the elevate part, how would I approach similar situations in the future, and how does this experience inform my professional objectives? In the future, I'm definitely going to start early. I will be using that advice that Jason gave me, Professor Jason, of psyching my mind out to thinking that it's due on a Saturday if it's due Sunday. That way, anything that I have to do, any problems I might encounter, I can actually overcome them, not putting myself up against that last minute rush, which I enjoy that last minute rush. I've psyched myself out to believing that I do my best work at the last minute, but I actually don't want to use that last minute excuse and crutch or whatever. And if I do encounter a problem, I actually have time to reach out to my professors or look at my YouTube videos and see if it's anything that I can do or change that will make that project better. But over and all, these projects have been great eye-openers for me, and it actually sheds a lot of light on some of the things that I'll be able to do once I'm in this field. But it's definitely a great tool. Some of my resources are great that the professor has left on the site. I have actually bookmarked most of those websites just as a reference tool to go back and be able to use.